Unit 24 Environmental Science. So through this unit we have discussed about the water cycle, how that the water move one stage to another stage, how it's become like the same stage is like a cycle. So today we are going to study that another topic we'll called the nitrogen cycle, how the nitrogen move one stage to another stage, how it's become like a cycle. So this is the things we are going to study today. So nitrogen cycle. Nitrogen is the important nutrients need for survival of all living organisms. It means the nitrogen is one of the important nutrients. So for all living organisms, not only the plants, all the living animals, human beings, whatever may be, the nitrogen is necessary for the certain nutrients or important nutrients. So it is essential component of protein, DNA and chlorophyll. So that is the form of protein, the nitrogen is available, the DNA also is nitrogen is available, and chlorophyll. When you take the plants have the chlorophyll have the nitrogen. So altogether the first sentence itself mentioned that all the living organisms have nitrogen. Nitrogen, it's a essential components of the protein, DNA and chlorophyll. So atmosphere is a rich source of nitrogen and contain about 78% of nitrogen is available. So atmosphere have rich source of nitrogen, so nearly 78% of nitrogen available in atmosphere. So this the nitrogen is not available or can take through the plants. So certain area, certain modification is necessary. Anyway, so 78% of nitrogen is available in the atmosphere. That nitrogen we called atmospheric nitrogen. Plants and animals cannot utilize atmospheric nitrogen. So already I told that plants and animals cannot utilize, it means they cannot use the atmospheric nitrogen. So it is means it is not the form of to absorb by the animals or by the plants, or it may not utilize the atmospheric nitrogen because it is the different form of the nitrogen. So we have to convert something, how to be converted to utilize that atmospheric nitrogen. So that's the detail we are going to study. They can use it only if it is the form of ammonia, amino acid, nitrates. The process involved in nitrogen cycle are explained below. So already told nitrogen is one of the important nutrients for all the living organism. So this is essential for that nitrogen components in protein, DNA and chlorophyll, and in atmosphere 78% of nitrogen available, that we call is atmospheric nitrogen. It cannot utilize by the animals and plants because it is not in the form of the utilization of atmospheric nitrogen. They cannot use only in the form of ammonia. It means the atmospheric nitrogen have to convert into ammonia, amino acid and nitrates. So this is the process we are going to study. So look at this the picture. It's very simple picture to understand about the nitrogen cycle. How that atmospheric nitrogen is convert or move one stage to another stage for observe the plants or observe the animals. So this is the things. Look at this. So this is the atmospheric nitrogen. So atmosphere there are nitrogen is present, that we call is a atmospheric nitrogen. So after that it move nitrogen fixing bacteria live legumes root. So this is the plants. This is the plants we call is a legumes plants. So probably that's a bulbous plants. So groundnut and black groundnut legumes plants. So this all the legumes plants, they have the certain bacteria that we call is a rhizobium. So rhizobium is one of the legumes bacteria which is present in the legumes root nodules. So when you take the groundnut, so we can be able to identify small bulge area in the root. So it is nothing, the rhizobiums are present. What's the work of the rhizobium? So it absorbs the atmospheric nitrogen, is converted into the form of ammonia or something, it's the absorbed by the plants. So this is the one. Then another one, nitrogen fixing soil bacteria. So if the atmospheric nitrogen is covered by this, so what will happen, directly it move to the plants, or the nitrogen absorbed by the plants. So some of the nitrogen fixing soil bacteria, so which is convert to the atmospheric nitrogen to ammonium. The atmospheric nitrogen converted into ammonium, that we called Amonifications. So that we call is a ammonification. So ammonification is nothing, the atmospheric nitrogen converted into ammonium by the nitrogen fixing soil bacteria, that we called ammonifications. After the ammonifications, what will happen? The ammonium converted into nitrite. So what will happen? Nitrifications, nitrifying bacteria. So after that it become nitrates. Nitrites become nitrates. So after that what will happen? It absorbed by the plants. So sometimes the nitrates, it's moved to the atmosphere by the denitrifying bacteria. So some of the bacteria which is present in the soil, it moved to, or it absorb the nitrates and converted into the gaseous form, that we called that atmospheric nitrogen. So this is the things we are going to study in detail. So nitrates, it's absorbed by the plants, that we called assimilations. Nitrogen fixations. What is the nitrogen fixations? Nitrogen fixation is the conversion of atmospheric nitrogen which is in inert form. It means we cannot use the form of the nitrogen, cannot use by the plants or cannot use by the animals. Reactive components available to living organisms. This conservation is done by a number of bacteria and blue-green algae. So the conversions, the atmospheric nitrogen is converted into the nitrate or ammoniums. So some of the bacteria which is present, that we called the blue-green algae. The leguminous plants like beans have symbiotic relations with nitrogen fixation bacteria like Rhizobium. Rhizobium we called, that is a bacteria. The bacteria we called is symbiotic bacteria. Why we are called is a symbiotic bacteria? They are not harmful the plants, or they are not harmful the groundnut plants. They are not harmful the leguminous plants. So they are associated with either. What's a symbiotic? Both the plants as well as the bacteria get mutual benefits. What is the mutual benefits? The Rhizobium get the habitats. The groundnut get the nitrogen. So mutual. So the rhizobium get habitats in the root of the groundnut. The groundnut consume or get the nitrogen. Rhizobium occurs in the root nodules of leguminous plants and fix nitrogenous component. So rhizobium occur in the root of nodules of leguminous plants. So where it is present, the leguminous plants, all the leguminous plants, they have the rhizobium. The rhizobium absorb the atmospheric nitrogen, is converted into that nitrogen which is available to the plants. It means they are absorb, or the plants able to absorb. That is the meaning of that. And fixing nitrogenous component. So that we call is a nitrogen fixations. Very simple. The atmospheric nitrogen is converted into the nitrogen which is available to the plants by the bacteria that we call is a rhizobium, which is present in the leguminous plants, that symbiotic relations. So that is the very simple meaning of this the paragraph. Nitrogen assimilations. What is the nitrogen assimilations? Plants absorb nitrates, iron, and use them for making organic matter like protein and nucleic acid. The plants absorb that nitrates and using them and making the organic matter, protein, or it's converted nucleic acid. So after that, what will happen? Herbivorous. Herbivorous means, what is the herbivorous? They absorb or they will eat the plants. That animals we call is a herbivorous. The herbivorous, so what happens? So converted the plant protein, because the plant protein have the nitrogen, and converted into the animal proteins. The carnivorous. Then carnivorous means one who eat the animals. So the animals, carnivorous animals, synthesize the protein from their food. So the which is consume the herbivorous, they are able to synthesize the protein which is present in the animal protein. The animal protein can get, or the herbivorous absorb that is the protein from the plants, and the plants is get the atmospheric nitrogen. So that we call is a nitrogen assimilations. So look at this. So fixations, ammonia is converted to nitrite, after that nitrate, then it is converted into the plants. So there are certain steps, or there are certain stages are moved to, and at last it's moved to the plants. Amonifications. What is the amonifications? The process of decomposing nitrogenous waste by fructifying bacteria and fungi into ammonium component is called amonifications. So what is the ammonification? The process of decompositions. So which is present in the plants, or which is present in the animals, and it converted into ammonium component. This we call is the ammonifications. It's the animal protein excreted in that form of urea, uric acid, or ammonia. So the purifying bacteria and fungi decompose their animal protein and dead the animals and plants into ammonium component. So look at this, that decomposer. So what happened? Nitrogen fixes in soil bacteria, it converted into ammonifications. After that it comes nitrifications, then it moved to nitrifying bacteria, nitrates. After that it nitrifying bacteria, then it atmospheric nitrogens. Nitrifications. So look at that nitrifications. So we are going to study. This is the nitrifications. The ammonium components. Look at that the ammonium components. So this is the ammonium component. Ammonium component by ammonifications process by oxidize to soluble nitrates. Look at that. So ammonifications ammonium, nitrifications bacteria nitrates. So this is the one. Oxidize. So this process of nitrates formation is known as nitrifications. The bacteria response for the nitrifications are called nitrifying bacteria. So look at that is a nitrifying bacteria. So this is the one, nitrifying bacteria. So ammonium is converted into that nitrifying bacteria, nitrifications, then it convert into nitrates. Denitrifications. What is the denitrifications? Living or free living soil bacteria such as Pseudomonas reduce nitrates ion of soil into gaseous nitrogen which enter to atmospheric. So look at that is a nitrogens. So nitrifying waste. So what will happen? The bacteria and the proteins. So after that it becomes like this. Look at this very simple methods. So atmospheric nitrogen. So absorbed by the nitrogen fixation soil bacteria that we called ammonium, that the ammonifications, then at last is more nitrifications, nitrifying bacteria and nitrifying bacteria nitrates and nitrites and nitrates, then it move to the atmospheric nitrogen. So nitrifying bacteria, it's involved, the nitrates become into gaseous form, that we call is a atmospheric nitrogen. So where it comes, so now it's reached. So this is seems to be like a cycle that we call is a nitrogen. What is the human impact on nitrogen cycle? So what are the involvement as well as some of the advantages and disadvantages also present. Burning fossil fuels, applications of nitrogen based fertilizer and other activities can increase the amount of biologically available nitrogen in an ecosystem. So burning of fossil fuel. So what is a fossil fuel? Coal, petroleum. So these are maybe is increase the nitrogen. Application of the nitrogen based on the fertilizer, the chemical fertilizer which is used, or the organic matters which we use for the cultivation purpose, and the other activities increase the amount of the biological available nitrogen in the ecosystem. So there are some involvement also present which is increase the nitrogen, atmospheric nitrogen increase. Nitrogen applied to agriculture field entered rivers and mineral system. So nitrogen applied to the agriculture field. So we called that some of the fertilizer which we use in the agriculture purpose. So that also is goes to the river or marine system. So it is the disturb the biodiversity and change the food web system and destroy the general habitats. So while we are using the chemical substance or chemical fertilizer in the field, so it will reach to the river, and after the river it will reach to the marine system. So after that the biodiversity which is present in that marine So it will disturb because of the chemical substance, the nitrogen increase. So it is destroyed that the natural habitats. So this is some of the role play in nitrogen cycle. So what are the bacteria which is involved in the nitrogen cycle? Nitrogen fixation and ammonifications, nitrifications, denitrifications. Look at this, that ammonifications, nitrifications, denitrifications, assimilations. So these are the things, what are the bacteria which is used for that. Nitrogen fixations, acetobacter. So acetobacter in soil, so which help the atmospheric nitrogen into available nitrogen to the plants. Rhizobium, which is present in the nodule of leguminous plants. And blue-green algae, gnostic. Amonifications, so fructifying bacteria and fungi. And nitrifications, so nitrifying bacteria, nitrosomonas, nitrobacteria. So this is some of the things. And denitrifications, so denitrifying bacteria, pseudomonas. So these are some of the things. So already we have studied. So pseudomonas bacteria is there, and here is a rhizobium. So and acetobacter also is present. So here some of the bacteria we have studied, that nitrosomonas and nitrobacter. So these are some of the bacteria which is involved in the cycle. So we have studied the atmospheric nitrogen, how it comes to that is available to that plants. So leguminous plants, that we call is a rhizobium, which help the atmospheric nitrogen into the plants. Then here some of the bacteria which is fixing the nitrogen, that bacteria we called nitrogen fixing soil bacteria. Then it converted into ammonium, that we call is a ammonifications. Then it converted into nitrite, that we call is a nitrifications or nitrifying bacteria. Then it will convert into nitrates. So nitrifying bacteria, it's carried the process to converting of nitrites into nitrates. Then the nitrate is converted into gaseous form of the atmospheric nitrogen, denitrifying bacteria. Then it will move to the assimilations. So these are the things we have studied. It's very simple, but we should understand first. After that, it's easy for to understand that. First we should understand the concept. It is easy to study also. Thank you.